100 years ago, Great Britain ruled the land of Israel. During those years, there was a growth in Jewish settlement, and Jews in Israel looked forward to living in an independent country of their own. There is a ray of light wandering the streets of Jerusalem. It illuminates the darkness. The need for it grows as the darkness deepens. This ray of light was Rabbi Aryeh Levin. Rabbi Aryeh Levin was a short man with kind eyes and a huge heart, who made it his mission to love all human beings. Inside his coat, his wife had sewn a secret pocket so the secret should not be discovered. The house of the Levin family in the Mishkenot Israel neighborhood of Jerusalem was rather small and narrow. It had only 2 small rooms for Rabbi Aryeh, his wife Hannah, and their children.
My name is Benji Levin. My father was the oldest son of Rabbi Aryeh Levin, the tzaddik of Yerushalayim. After my bar mitzvah, I went for the first time to Jerusalem and lived with my grandfather in his little room, which was an experience that I will never forget my entire life. The people that came into his little room to visit with him spanned the entire gamut of Israeli society, from the most religious to the most secular, and everyone was welcomed in his home.
Every morning, Rabbi Aryeh would go to work. Pacing quickly on his way to Talmud, Torah Etz Haim, he would hold on to the corner of his coat with his hand, as though he were keeping a secret at bay.
In the yeshiva that where he worked, he was in charge of the students. My grandfather's room in this yeshiva, in this academy, was the worst room in the entire building. It was a room under the steps, like Harry Potter. My grandfather called my father and said, "Look at this scene before you. What do you see?" He said, "I see boys running back to class after the recess." And then he said to my father, "You know what I see? I see that boy over there has torn trousers. He doesn't have any money to buy a decent pair of trousers." Next few days, he made sure that a tailor came and made him a pair of trousers. He said, "Do you see that boy over there? He doesn't even have what to eat." And then my grandfather went and made sure that every day there was a sandwich in his lunchbox. And that was the discerning eye that my grandfather had, always to see each and every individual and to see what their needs were.
When the school day ended, Rabbi Aryeh rushed to get on his way as his hand touched his coat and he heaved a sigh of relief. He rushed to visit the patients in the nearby hospital. He then continued in the direction of the Wailing Wall to pray. This day, something happened which changed his life forever, and so he recounted.
I went on a Friday morning to the wall, to the kotel. While I was praying, I heard a woman crying. My holy grandfather said, "How can I pray when I hear somebody else crying? Maybe I can help her." So right away he closed his prayer book and he walked over to the woman and he said, "My dear, why are you crying?" And she said, "I have a son and he has leprosy and he's in the institution, in the leper colony. Everyone is afraid to go there. And I'm also afraid to go there, and I don't know what's happening with my son." And so that day, he made his way from his home in Nachlaot to Talbiyah. That's a long way. That's a pretty long way. I said, "You weren't afraid?" He said to me, "Shluchei mitzvah einan nizakin." If you go to do a good deed, and it's not for your honor, and you're not making money from it, but you really want to help somebody else, the angels watch over you.
In those days, the lepers were kept in isolation in the rear end of the city. Every day, Rabbi Aryeh and his wife would come visit the patients, bringing them kosher food and giving them hope and encouragement. The British Mandate ruled the land of Israel. Underground fighters who were opposed to British rule met it with resistance. The underground fighters carried out such tasks as defending the Jewish settlements and helping the illegal immigrants who had reached Israel by sea and had not been issued entry permits by the British. Some of them were arrested for these actions and jailed in the central prison in either Jerusalem or Acre.
Rabbi Aryeh was called the father of the prisoners. Not the rabbi of the prisoners, the father of the prisoners. And every Shabbat, every Saturday morning, my grandfather would go, he would walk quite a way to the prison. And my grandmother knew that he would bring notes from their families to them. She sewed long pockets into his black coat so that he could put in all these notes that he brought to the prisoners. There was no WhatsApp. There was no email. There was no telephones. There was no way to tell another person, get in touch with another person. The British, who at first gave my grandfather a difficult time, but when they saw that my grandfather was like a father to all of them, and they realized that this man is a holy man, they never checked him and never bothered him. And every Shabbat, my grandfather would go to pray together with them. And some of the most non-religious prisoners at the time, some of them were atheists. They didn't believe in God or anything. And I asked one of them once, how did you relate to my grandfather when he came on Shabbat to pray with you? He said, everyone waited the whole week for your grandfather's visit. To get his warm handshake that was like electric, we'll never forget it. He said, because we felt in his eyes the love. He was doing it because of the love that he had for each and every one of us. And when your grandfather left, we started counting the days to his next visit.
Meanwhile, the British had left. The State of Israel was established, and Rabbi Aryeh Levin went on acting in his special ways, even though he was now an old man. One day he fell ill and was rushed to the Hadassah Ein Kerem hospital. The doctors told him he only had a few weeks to live. One day at the hospital, he had a dream.
My grandfather had a dream, and in his dream, all of a sudden his bed where he was lying started to rise. And the top of the bed went up on the top, as if they were coming to take him back to his place. His end was near. He had finished his lifetime work. And as the bed was moving up, all of a sudden, thousands of notes started to snow down like a snowstorm. And these were the notes that through the years my grandfather had brought to all those people suffering, to all those people who were waiting death. They didn't know what would happen with them. The notes that my grandfather took care every Shabbat and every opportunity he had to bring to those people a little message, something from home, a little word of encouragement. At that moment, those notes said, no, 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 you're not taking this holy man away. They started to flood the place and the bed and knock the bed down. So many notes, one after the other. And my grandfather woke up and saw it was a dream. And the dream said to him, no, 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 your time isn't over, as the doctors say. Those notes aren't going to let you go. All those thousands and thousands of people that you cared for your lifetime are not going to let you go yet.
Rabbi Aryeh woke up from his dream and realized that his time on earth had been prolonged due to his good deeds. A year later, he passed away of old age. His legacy remains with us.